Welcome back to Midco Sports Magazine. Well, recruiting is the lifeblood of college athletics. And Alex Heiner talked with 4 college coaches who all had great stories about the luck and the charm and the hard work that it takes to survive the recruiting game.
When I say the word recruiting, what comes to mind?
Year-round work, man.
Lifeblood of your program.
You got to work at it every day. It's like shaving. If you don't do it, you look bad.
It's a lifestyle. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Everything is centered around recruiting. Everything. My entire day in the off season, from as soon as the season ends all the way until August 1, everything is centered around recruiting.
It really never does stop. If you're doing it right, in my opinion, you'll constantly be recruiting.
It's, I would say, at least 75% of our job when the season's over. Essentially that's all we do.
Recruiting is about probably one thing and one thing only, and that's developing relationships.
It's a relationship business, It's relationships with the prospect, it's relationships with the coaches, it's relationships with their parents, it's relationship with their mentors or their grandmother.
You just want to try and build the relationship as soon as possible, and that's really what recruiting is about.
If I don't have a connection with that prospect and I don't feel like he's what we're about, we're going to pass. Even though he might be a really good player and a talented guy, it just will never jive.
It's very stressful in the fact that when you're waiting on a recruit that is the right one, but if that's the case, there's usually 2 or 3 other schools that believe the same thing.
My eyes were black when I first got hired, and I had countless, all I thought about, I couldn't sleep at night. I just would constantly think about recruit. But it's our lifeline. And if we can't recruit the right types of guys, we're gonna be out the door and the next guy's coming in.
Sometimes in our business, it's one player. That's a big difference between having a good year and a great year. So again, when it is your lifeblood and you know what's at stake, it's pretty easy to get emotional on it.
I used to really stress out about, if I don't get this young man, what the heck's going to happen? Not so much anymore.
Sometimes in the old days, my head would go down and you just almost want to go into a cave and say, man, is this worth it? But I've changed now to just say there's so many players out there that when you lose one, you got to get right back on the horse and you got to go get the next one.
I'll drop everything that I had if a recruit calls or texts me, drives my wife crazy. I'm always on my phone, but it's just the way it is. If I don't respond to a kid and some other coach does, and I miss out on them just for that simple little factor, you gotta be ready to go. And of course, with social media and everything on your phone, on your iPad and computer, you have a whole lot more access.
Before, it was just handwritten notes, maybe an email here or there, and now, with Twitter and text and some of it, I'm glad I have a young assistant that can explain to me how to use a lot of the stuff that we do have.
The game continues to change in a better way on that instant communication, but with that, kids expect instant communication.
And if you can play that game, get your message out on Facebook and do all those type of things, then I think you're a step ahead of the game, but I wouldn't even say you're a step ahead, because everybody that's anybody right now understands that that's how your message has to be marketed.
You say something to the kid, hey, I haven't talked to you for a couple weeks. Yeah, you did, coach. You were texting me last night. Oh yeah, that's right. I was talking to you through the text. It's just, it's just a totally different deal. And so you got to appease to that. You can try to be stubborn and you can try to be quote unquote old school, but that's not reality. There's
no exact process to it. There's some ways you can recruit thinking, I got this figured out. I know what I'm doing now. And then something happens, you're going, wow, what just happened? So that never ends, and I don't expect it ever will.
Yeah, recruiting at every level is different. The lower level, you have to do way more with less. You don't get paid as much. I'm not going to say you have to work harder, but you have so much more travel time in cars versus flying. At Nebraska, I could go recruiting. I could take myself on a private jet to go fly in to see a kid play and be back that night. But at different places, you're driving 9 hours each way in the same day.
In this business, it's a volatile business. You get hired to get fired sometimes, and if you get great recruits, your longevity in this business probably goes a long, long ways.
And there's some luck involved in it too, I guess, but I'd like to think it's prepared skill that you go after the right kids and hopefully you get them.
It's delicate, it's stressful. it's worth it when it works. You know, the joy you get when you get that phone call or you get the text from a kid saying he's coming to you, it's just exciting.
It's a hard job, it's hard work, but it's so rewarding when you get a young man to say yes and you know he did it for the right reasons.
Our job beats working for a living, let's face it. You know, when you love it and you're passionate about coaching guys and being around people, there's no other greater job on earth.
Joined by Alex Heinert, and great story, and just talk about, for the most part, between all these different levels of guys that you talk to, from Division I to NAIA, it seems like they all have really similar experiences through the sport and through the level that they're at.
Yeah, it didn't seem to matter what sport it was, what level they were on. They talked about how important relationships were. If you didn't have a relationship with the kid, it wasn't going to work out. They talked about everybody had a ton of hours put into this, how they had to perfect the craft, but how no matter how long these guys have been doing it, and some of these guys have been coaching for a long time and recruiting for a long time, it's always changing, and there's no set way to do it that's correct.
And you can see why a lot of these guys get hired, though, because you have to have these people skills to go out and do these things, right, and be outgoing.
These guys were fun to talk to, and you could tell immediately like what kind of an atmosphere in the recruiting house you would get if this coach walked in and started giving you his pitch, how that would come across. And they're good, all those guys, all four of them, fantastic.
And one of them told you that they had to take an etiquette class on enjoying food that maybe they didn't enjoy.
Craig Smith talked about how he just got prepped a little bit more, because he said you go into these homes and he said some people are just dying to feed you. They just can't wait to wine and dine you a little bit, and some of the stuff wasn't that great, but you had to like it, or else it was going to turn off the recruit in the family.
And Coach O at Augie had a story about getting injured in a celebration after he signed a kid.
You talk about just the joy, and the kids being excited to be on, to be able to sign to a school. The parents get so excited about this, and he had one student athlete that was so pumped to come to his school. The dad was so excited, he came and gave him a big bear hug. He's a big truck driver guy, and he slipped a disc in Coach OJ's back, and he had to go and get some work done after the fact.
And you said, I think in the story, that it takes up 75-80% of their time during the year to go out and recruit, right?
Yeah, these guys say this is all they do in the off season. I mean, and it is a big part of what they do during the year. And for an assistant coach as well, that's their main job. It's player retention certainly and game plan, but it's also trying to figure out who's going to fit this program and who's going to be the guys on the court and on the field in the years to come.
Because you're depending on, for your job, for these guys, you're depending on these 18, 19-year-old kids coming in. Right?
It's an incredible amount of pressure, and you saw, again, these guys they're stressed out about it sometimes, because it's your livelihood, and if you don't do it well, and Coach Trapp said it, you get hired to get fired. If you're not going to be there very long if you can't do it well.
One more good story on something maybe that you learned that kind of opened your eyes.
One of the big things that, I was surprised how the lengths that some programs and some booster clubs go to get these kids into their programs, and not necessarily legal lengths. And Craig Smith, who's been at Nebraska and been at Colorado State, mentioned that at the top levels, people will do whatever it takes, and you have to figure out pretty quick which AAU programs and which college programs are not on the level, because if they want a guy that you want, you're not going to get him. Yeah, exactly.
Well, up next, the recruiting game from the athlete's angle. Is success worth all the stress? Jason Andera has that story next.